had a lot of familial support. We had both sets of
Right.
grandparents around, and and you know, in very positively, our daughter had a wonderful, always was in a loving place, and with and was cared for. We were lucky. We were
Yeah.
privileged. It was absolute privilege. No, I mean, we also chose to live near our near our parents so that we would have that. Our parents wanted to do this. We would no, there was no everyone was happy with it, but we were very fortunate, and
Right.
not everybody has parents who are willing and able to do that. And that's okay too. Like there's, you know, grandparents don't have to do that. No. Would we like them to? Sure. I mean, it was a wonderful blessing, and I'm glad, and I think it was a blessing to them as well to get to see my
Yeah.
daughter grow, and so I mean, but the fact is my wife was still stressed from work, like
Yeah.
stressed from the day, and then to come home and be with our daughter, like that all of that has a psychological, energetic impact. No
Yeah.
matter what, no matter how great your life is different than just being able to focus on my daughter. And again, we all need breaks from that too, right? I mean, not
Yeah.
everybody, and that's the other thing, like not every woman is like, a mother. Like some
Right.
women are very mothering. That's part of their design. They are designed to be mothering. That is what they were created for in some senses. And it gives them fulfillment and it gives them joy. And they should be honored for that because it's awesome. There's other women who that's not their design, and that doesn't make them any less than the motheriest mother. It means that they're not designed for that. So why do
Yeah.
we force people or shame people to think, "Oh, you have to motherhood is the pinnacle of every experience." Is motherhood wonderful? I don't know. I'm not a mother, but I assume yes. And it probably also sucks in a lot of ways
Yeah.
too. So to all you mothers who've had your bodies distended and like all these hormones going crazy, and maybe your life is never the same because your body's never exactly the same after giving birth because it's
Right.
so traumatic on your body. Like, love you for that. But if you don't choose that path, if that's not what's for you, there's no shame in that either.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, and to tie that back into what you mentioned earlier about motherhood being resistance or it being something that women are just reduced to, I think in a society that does oftentimes reduce women to mother, even women that reproduce and do have kids, there is very much a societal difference between, like you said, the most mothering mother of all mothers and the woman who is a good mother, but just doesn't have the kind of cookie cutter image of what the best mom of the year should look like. Even though she's a mother, her personhood is put up for debate because if you're reduced to mother, then how mothery you are is how much of a person you are. Like, there's a direct correlation there. And I think the another thing that just keeps coming up in my mind too, there's a pastor that just kind of went viral because the piece was done on him and by CNN, and the video about this article literally opens with him saying, "Women are reproducing machines. That is what they were made for." And the journalist interviewing him is a woman and was like, "So what do you think about me being a journalist?" And he was like, "Well, that's fine. Do you have kids?" It's just this like, it's not I think also there's this idea that like, well, yeah, all these things you're talking about, like, we all know and we all see, but like we're moving in the right direction. But I'm like, these ideas of women just being baby making machines are not fringe. And these ideas of women just being reduced to motherhood are not fringe. They are the water that we swim in. And if we are not actively taking steps to it almost makes me think of this idea of like Ibram X. Kendi's book How to Be an Anti-Racist, right? Like, it's not enough just to not be racist. As a white person, it is my duty to actively learn and be anti-racist. And I think it's the same thing with motherhood. And I mean, bringing back in intersectionality and race to that too, like how much more difficult this is on Black women and women of color. And people who are systemically oppressed in other ways, that it's like you said, even motherhood as it is hard enough, and you and your wife were privileged in a lot of ways too.
And it was still difficult as hell.
Right.
Like, this was not some cakewalk. Like, and we did wonderfully and we did terribly, and in certain areas, like, we always did it with love.
Yeah.
We did our best, but no one's good enough to be a parent. Because
Yes.
and everyone is, if when you operate in love, but we don't make it economically easy to be parents, for
Yeah.
sure. Speaking of motherhood, I think that's a great segue into that the mother son relationship in the final season, and particularly the at the end where she stops her son.
Yeah.
I'm just curious, what did you take away from that whole dynamic through the last 2 seasons?
You know, it was so interesting because to know that she was there for him, it was just like, man, it never stops, does it? And I'm sure you feel that too, that it's like once you're a parent, you're always a parent. Like, no matter how old your kid is, you are always a parent. And just knowing that his mom just had this huge sense of responsibility, that it's like, well, I'm here for you. And of course, there were some really lovely moments of levity in their relationship, but also to get to a place, I think that scene was when I felt the most emotional through this whole season, actually, because there's really something about mothers hurting their kids that hits me in a really specific way. Like, I remember watching The Conjuring for the first time and the mother being possessed and hurting her kids because she's possessed, and how like deeply disturbing that was to me. I think to this day that's one
Mm.
of the scariest things that I've ever seen, because it is just so the antithesis of everything, like, in your DNA, right? That is like, no, as a kid, your mother is your one, right? And as a mother, it is your job to be there for your kid. And it is just like so primordial in that sense. And yet, she stops him. And I honestly can't put my finger on even really why she valued this other girl and her baby more. I mean, sure, this baby's younger. The girl did nothing wrong. Her son was kind of going through a psychotic break in that moment. They'd been through a lot. Like, there's so many variables there, but I can't even really put my finger right now on why it hit me so hard beyond it just feeling innately wrong. And also, why she decided to do that. Like, and did she even do it consciously? But to override that system of like, this is your kid, I would have to imagine that takes some conscious decision making. So I don't know. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I didn't like the son very much.
Yeah, yeah,
To be honest with you, like, so I was thrilled. In some like I didn't I was not particularly emotional from that scene because I'm like, kill the fucker. Like, he's an asshole. Like, how, it was just sort of my visceral, like,
sure, sure.
your son's a piece of shit,
He
lady. You
sucks.
know it. We know it. Like, you're all gonna die anyway. So, I mean, and in that sense, I mean, that's the other thing. Like, we know this doesn't have a happy ending.
Yeah,
And so, what, I mean, I mean, obviously she dealt with a lot of guilt, right? Because she hung herself,
yeah,
she hanged herself afterwards. And, um, I think it was very brave to do that. And I can't imagine actually doing that to stop her son. Um, And I also, I thought it was very brave of her to even volunteer herself. Like, "Hey, I've lived a long life." Like, again, it's showing a mother's love,
yeah,
um, which I think was super, super powerful. Um, but, he was so I mean, it was so clear he wasn't going to make it out of this alive to begin with. So that kind of shaded everything for me. But I think it does show the power. And here's a question: if she hadn't just given birth to the newborn, would his mother have stopped him? You know,
Yeah.
like did that spark something? Like, hey, there's more. There's more than this, or